Do I force them because exams are important? Do I disenroll them because I need to protect their mental well-being? I do not know what to do. This message made me rethink. Hey, it's me, Sarah Lynn. What do we do when our child can't approach something? I've worked with families who needed to reassess their GCSE pathway, and I'm hoping that today I can share a little bit of light on that. I want to talk about what are these options when your child doesn't look like they're going to be able to sit their GCSEs in May when they begin. What can we do? We're not going to lean into fear today, because when we lean into fear, we limit our choices. What we're going to do today is we're going to lean into curiosity, because curiosity can help us expand our options. Let's grab your notebook. If you don't have one, don't fret. I've listed it all in a free downloadable in the show notes. But here we go. Option number one, if your teen is having a full mental well-being breakdown, they've lost the sense of self, they're not going to school, they cannot eat, sleep, they're in panic all the time, that's we don't need to look at our GCSEs, but we need mental health support now, immediately. This isn't a lack of structure and planning that will help them. This has gone past what we can do academically, what you can do as a family. Now we need to bring in people who can support because they specialize in these kinds of support methods. So if your teen is having panic attacks, unable to get out of bed, self-harming or talking about self-harm, dissociating or completely shutting down, having suicidal thoughts, and basically a shell of themselves, we need to look at professional support, because revision strategies are no longer the only issue that we're dealing with. And the reason why we bring in additional support is because your child needs you to be their safe place. Your child needs you to be their carer, their grounding force, their advocate. They are not able to always lean on you when they need to be pushed a little bit, or given tools, or when they need to be incredibly vulnerable. It's hard to hear as a parent. We want to be everything for our child, but as someone who's gone to therapy, it actually strengthens the relationship with the parents, because it gives them, the child, this sense of, I'm okay to go to my parent about it. So there's a couple of people that you can reach out to. First and foremost would be your GP. Talk to them about what your child is going through. Be very clear. Write down the evidence. Evidence is incredibly important. I have an entire handbook on what evidence you should gather and how you should gather it down in our show notes. Another person that you can potentially get referred to through your GP is CAMS. Now, CAMS in the UK is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. The wait list, though, I'm not going to lie, is long. Many of our students have been on the list for multiple months leading up to a full year. So you need to make the decision if it is imperative that they see someone right away. So you can speak to your GP, you potentially get a referral through CAMS. Another really useful resource that a lot of people will hesitate to go towards, which I can understand why, because the issue is within the education system, so you would naturally feel reluctant to turn to them, but they have resources that are incredibly valuable. So turn to the school. Your child's school needs to know that your child is struggling, and that, yes, you may be getting outside support, but look to see if there are any supports that the school can offer. The school usually has little things that they can do that they may not advertise. It's like one of those read between the lines or read within the fine print kind of things. There are accommodations that can happen. They just need to be involved so that they know how to help. A great way to do this is to send them an email. So you would send this to the head teacher, the head of year, and the SENCO team. And you might say something like, what you're seeing at home. So describe the scenario in 2 to 3 sentences, that you are seeking professional help, and you can list out what that is if you choose. But more importantly, you're looking for the school support during this time. And then you're going to ask for a meeting. And I want you to break down what it is that you're looking for this meeting. You're going to be looking for what the school can do during exam season, whether or not there are or could be crisis protocols in place, if their child can have access to a quiet space where they feel safe once they feel overwhelmed, or potentially a buddy system, so a check-in teacher that they can work with. Send that off, and hopefully that school and you will be able to build that bridge and that connection. Another option is for you to go the private route. So if the NHS waitlist feels a little bit too long and you have the means, then private therapy could be a really great option. There are so many therapists that you can get access to. So what I would suggest is being particular and looking for ones who specialize in teens, specialize in anxiety, those who specialize in the exam process and the stress that comes with the exam process as well. Another consideration is the type of therapy that's available, and I would strongly suggest looking at CBT, so cognitive behavior therapy, or solution-focused therapy, as it would help that child reframe things and understand what's going on in their mind as well, which will give them empowerment to take action. When you're messaging the therapist, it's really important that you're upfront, right? We have 6 weeks until exams. These are the things that we're noticing. We need a solution and we need support now. We don't need a waiting list. Like, can you help us? Yes or no. If you feel like you've gone through that and you still haven't quite got the solution team around you, then you can look at something like the crisis lines. Now, crisis lines are incredibly valuable because they're available 24/7, and the people that you're speaking to are incredibly skilled at supporting not just your child, but can support you as well. So we have the child line, and you can find that at 0800 1111. 0800 1111. We also have the Young Minds Crisis Helpline. So you can text capital YM to 85258. And that again is 24/7. We also have the Samaritans Helpline, which is available for any age actually, which is really good. You can call them at 116 123. And I guess you might be sitting there thinking, like, Sarah Lynn, if we have exams that are imminent, like they're around the corner, how on earth is therapy going to help? And I get it. You are thinking about now. Will it help for the immediate future? And I don't know. I really don't. I don't know if it will give you that fix that we're looking for in the time frame that would benefit. But long term, your child is going to have tools, access to tools and resources to help them navigate other tricky situations, because exams are just a starting point. They're just a part of what they may be facing in the future. Let's look at option number 2. Remember, we're staying curious today. So option number 2, this is the bare minimum. If your child is not able to approach their exams because it feels incredibly overwhelming to have to revise for all of the subjects, if we're lowering the amount that they're revising, we need to lower our expectations as well. We can't expect them to pass, but lower the amount of revision time and independent study that they do. It's not going to work. It's not feasible. The math isn't mathing. So we might have to look to see which 2 to 3 exams are the most important for them to focus on. Now, this is not our gut reaction. We don't do this on a whim. You know that. We're here because we're in crisis. We're here because your child has completely shut down. And if we continue on that trajectory, the shutdown means that they're not going to be able to achieve anything. So we're going to look at the bare minimum. What 2 to 3 exams are the most important? And let's keep being curious. What does it mean to be important? What does it mean for your child? What does it mean for your family? Maths and English are needed for moving on with education, but maths and English can also be resat in November. So there's opportunity to push them if we need to. There's also courses that your child may genuinely love or be interested and passionate about. Do those matter as part of your 2 to 3? No one can really make that decision except you and your family. But if you'd like, I'd be happy to walk you guys through it. The point is, we may just have to focus and hone in that energy on the 2 to 3 subjects that are going to help them move to the next phase. And when we do that, we need to be brutal. We need to be ruthless. We're not just toning it down a little bit. You literally need to leave the other exams and focus in on those 2 to 3, because this could make the biggest difference between them failing everything to them getting 3 GCSEs with really good grades. How do we approach it? How do we approach it then with our child? Because they have peers, they have peer pressure, they have their own self-worth, esteem, what they feel like they're capable of doing. It's going to be really difficult, but let's role play a little bit. Here's something that I think you can use to start that conversation. Okay, I can see that you're struggling, and I don't want to make this worse, but we really need to be strategically thinking here. We need to do it together because our time, it's ticking. And I don't want to put that pressure on you, but we need to look at the facts. If we do that, then we can get a plan, and that helps us to feel in control, right? So here's what I'm thinking, and I want your feedback. If you could revise just 3 subjects between now and May when those exams start, which do you think would have the biggest impact on what you want to do next year? Now, I need us to be honest with each other. Not which ones you like the most, not which ones you feel guilty if you didn't do, but let's hone in on which ones actually matter for your next step. Let's focus there and accept that some of the others, we're just going to have to put a pin in it, keep it in the parking lot, revisit it later, and not worry about it. If you heard that last part, it's incredibly important that you hear that I am saying that your teen may walk into the exam hall and not be prepared for the exam that falls outside of their top 3. They may sit an exam that they have not revised even a little bit for, and they will likely not get that pass mark. But if they are in crisis, which is why you're here, and they can't move forward on anything, honing in on 2 to 3 gives them a really good fighting chance. And this just might be the most pragmatic choice. So if this is what you're choosing, let's break it down. What does it look like? Well, we pull out that calendar again. All remaining study time goes across those 2 to 3 subjects. You're also going to talk to the school. You're going to email the teacher. You're going to say something like, "Dear so-and-so, my child has been struggling with X." Give a little bit of detail, not a lot, just a little. And we've decided that we're going to zoom in on these 3 because they relate to their trajectory for next year. So they're not going to do any revision. They'll do classwork, they'll attend class, but they're not doing anything outside of class. And we have come to terms with what this might mean for their exam grade. Guys, I just spilled tea on my jeans. I moved too much. So another thing that we can do is approach the school for accommodations. Now, if it's March, April, unfortunately, we've gone past the accommodation deadline. But I want to highlight are things that you can ask the school, that the school has control over. So we start with a conversation. "Hi, my teen's mental health has deteriorated, XYZ is happening at home. I appreciate that we may be past the official deadline for accommodations at the examining hall or exam, board may be able to give us. However, I do know that there are accommodations that the school can provide to my child, and I'd like to explore those options. So we have pastoral support during exam week, a quiet place that they can use before or after the exam. 3, it might be to change their arrival time. It might be allowing your teen to sit on a specific seat, a smaller room, an exam invigilator that they have a good rapport with, and perhaps it's allowing them to take a break, even if time allowance is not added.
I've put the full list of what to ask for in the free download in our show notes. Go and check it out.
That leads us to the mental health crisis plan. This is a conversation about what happens if they go into shutdown mode. What happens if on exam day my child cannot physically get into school? What happens on exam day if my child gets to school but has a panic attack? Sometimes it's not that there's a whole lot that can be done or changed, but it's knowing that someone has thought about it. That helps us to feel, okay, somebody else has thought about it, so I don't have to, and that feels good.
Okay, deep breath. This is the one that nobody wants to talk about. But it's important that we do. We talk about hard things here, so we're going to talk about the nuclear option. Now, we need to remember that this is not giving up. If your teen is genuinely in crisis, like complete breakdown territory, then sitting these exams may do more harm long-term than good. And we need to ask ourselves this. We need to sit with ourselves and ask, is sitting through these exams, the whole process of getting there, pushing them to do just a little bit more, is that going to do them more harm than good? If you are considering it, because remember, today it's all about curiosity, this is what it would look like. Option A, you can sit some and defer some other ones. So if you've sat with your child and you've decided, yeah, we want to hone in on a couple that we feel is manageable, then we would sit those ones.
Editing Sarah Lynn here, just to come in with a little bit of clarity because this part might get a little bit confusing. I talk about deferral. Now, deferral is not actually a process that is allowed here in the UK. What I meant was choosing to sit exams knowing that you're going to get such a low mark that you are going to take the opportunity to resit them at a later date. So it's not that you can just opt out of taking these exams. You still have to take them. You still have to go to the exam. You still have to write them. But by managing the effort that you're putting into the exam preparation process, you are hopefully reducing the stress that your child is experiencing and therefore mitigating any of the crisis points that you are in currently. So it's not that you can just opt out of these exams. They still have to show up on exam day. They still have to write their name at the very least at the top of that paper. And then when we get our marks back, we will see that the mark was not up to scratch for what they want to do. Specifically for maths and English, we need to achieve at least a grade 4 in order to move forward. So this is where I'm talking about the different ways that you can go about retaking this exam by giving yourself a little bit longer of a runway. I hope that helps.
Now, the ones that are more easily to be deferred in November would be maths and English because those have traditional resits then. And the most important thing to remember here is that it means that your child can have success because they have this fear around failure, fear around the intensity of the exams. If we can lower the bar, give them some wins, the rest will feel a little bit easier. The tricky part is that if you do a resit in November, it means that your child is still going to maintain exam mode through summer and into autumn. Another option, option B, is to not sit them and actually just resit year 11 entirely again in September. The only time that we can consider this is if your teen is 14 or just turned 15. or if the mental health crisis is severe and you feel like it's going to be a long-term journey, and you and the well-being practitioners that you connected with feel like they're going to need a longer pathway to recovery. By choosing this option, they get a complete do-over. They have the time, over a year, in order to truly prepare, but also practice those skills that they need. And of course, there's less immediate term pressure. On the flip side, we have a couple of cons. Your teen is going to then be behind their peer group, but remember, time is for everyone, it's subjective. It's a full extra year before they can move forward. Again, subjective, but it's something to know. Now, if this is going to be an option, I imagine you're going to need to have a conversation with your teen, and it can feel a little bit tricky on how to go about balancing it. So here's a suggestion. I'm going to get comfy so I can talk to you about something. I would like to share something with you, but I need you to hear me before you react. I know you want to sit these exams. And I know that you're worried about falling behind or feel like you're giving up. And I honor that about you. I'm so proud of you for wanting to be resilient and wanting to progress. But the truth is, I'm watching you struggle and I'm really, really worried. I'm not worried about your grades per se. They're important, but more important is you. And I'm really worried about you, about your mental health, about whether pushing right now is going to help you or if it's going to hurt you in the long run. So I want us to at least talk about what this could look like if we didn't do the exams this way, if we deferred some or all of them, or if we looked at other options. I'm not saying that this is what we're choosing to do. I'm not saying that this is our action. However, we value curiosity and honesty. And so I believe this is something that we need to at least talk about. What are your initial thoughts? What are your initial feelings? Doing this type of conversation, you're not telling them, I've made a decision and this is what's happening. You're opening up a conversation about them. And when someone is really struggling internally with themselves, lack of control feels incredibly heightening and dysregulating. So including them in on the conversation is going to help them to feel empowered and keep their nervous system as regulated as we can. Now, here's the tricky part as the parent. Because you've opened that line of communication, we actually have to listen to their line of communication. And it can go either way. Some of our students that we've had these conversations with, they feel relieved, like an immense weight has been lifted over them. And within a couple of weeks, we can start to feel them become more themselves. And they're actively engaging with the therapy and the protocols because they know they need help and they needed support. On the other side, we have children who dig their heels in and absolutely despise this idea, and it causes them more panic to feel like they'll be even further behind. So we need to look at both options. But what does it look like if you actually explore Resits? Well, first you have to meet with the school. Do like normal, explain the mental health crisis that you're experiencing at home. You're going to ask what options they have for Resits. A really good idea that we do with our students is we ask them to write out a list of questions that they have. Typical ones tend to be, when would I enter sixth form? What happens if I don't choose to go to sixth form? What happens if I have a crisis? Who can I go to if I need support? All of those questions then get fed into the meeting and the child then gets answers. It helps them to feel, like I said, a part of their decision. Now it feels like as a parent, you have to make that decision, and for the greater breadth of it, you do, but hearing them out and helping them to feel a part of it allows everybody's nervous system to feel calmer because they feel like they're not losing control. And we're going to go to our GP, we're going to get medical documentation. If you have a therapist involved now, you can ask them to write a letter. Okay. last option is to approach things with a little bit of a disciplinary approach. It sounds harsh, but sometimes looking at true, honest consequences can help our child feel empowered to make a decision. So you can sit them down and you can tell them the honest truth of what you feel their trajectory is going to look like. Now, a lot of teens feel like failure is the end of everything, right? We go into fear, that gives us limited options. They think that if they don't pass their GCSEs in June, they can't move on to sixth form, they can't do A-levels, they can't do their course, they can't do anything, so they'll end up destitute on the streets, and that's just that. Well, we know that's not true. And sometimes what we have to do is break down that there are other pathways, there are other ways that we can approach this, but we need to be really clear on not just giving up, but adapting. So again, let's role play. Here's something that I think you could use when you have your conversation. Okay, I want us to do something. I want us to actually map out what happens if you don't get the grades that you need. Not to scare you, not because I don't think that you can. Absolutely, I think you do with the right amount of effort. But I want us to both understand what we're actually dealing with here and where you'd like to head towards, because I think part of what makes this so scary is that you don't know what's on the other side of failure, of what happens when we don't succeed. So I think we should look at that. Then you literally draw it out. Okay, scenario 1. If I fail everything, I like to start with the hard bits first. This one, it's hard to hear, but let's look at it. Where would you be in September? Well, you have a couple of options. You can either be starting sixth form with deferred maths and English in November. You could be doing a whole retake year at the same school. Or you can start a vocational course with resit plans. The long-term impact. Well, you're 1 year behind in traditional sense, but life is messy. And everyone enters the highway at different times, so that's not that big of a deal. Option number 2, I passed some, but not all of them. You have some GCSEs, which is fantastic, and we're really proud of you for that. Where would you be in September? Well, this one depends on which ones you passed. You may be able to start some at A-levels and reset the failed ones at a later date. Or you might need to do a foundation depending on the subject. What would be the long-term impact? Well, this one is messy, but it's manageable. It's messy because you have GCSE results and could still go on to university, but our timeline might be a little bit skewed. Scenario 3. I don't get the grades for the sixth form that I want. What actually happens? You would look at other sixth forms or potentially colleges with lower entry requirements, or you can look at vocational courses like BTEC and apprenticeships. And what would be the long-term impact? There's so many different routes to the same destination. You could take a foundational course that allows you to go to the sixth form that you wanted. You can take a course here that does an apprenticeship that brings you back to the course that you wanted. There's so many different ways to get there. The point of this exercise is to show your teen, and let's be honest, yourself as well, that not everything is as black and white as we feel when we are in a fear-based position. We have options. They just may not be traditional, but they're there and they're valuable. So you can follow it up now that you've kind of settled down your roadmap, and you can ask, okay, so now that we can see what failure actually looks like, how do you feel? Does knowing this change anything for you? Some teens will come back with, yeah, actually I feel so much better because I can see that I can still get to the end goal even if my route is a little bit different. It's not as bad as I thought. And because they feel that, the pressure eases off, they feel calmer, and they can move forward with a clear vision, and actually, they end up pulling it off, whatever that looks like for them. Other teens might go, no, I still really don't want that to happen. I want to follow this normal trajectory. Normal is used very lightly in this case. And honestly, that's okay too, but at least now they're making a decision That means they need to opt in and get the work done. It's not something that we're putting on them. They've decided that's the trajectory that they want. Therefore, they know that this needs to happen.
Between just us, now that you've had that conversation and you've held space for your child to have their own thoughts and feelings, have you checked in with yours yet? The truth is, the hard truth is that you might have your own thoughts and feelings about whether or not they defer or fail or not go a specific route that you might have wanted for them. And that's okay. Your feelings are completely valid. Maybe you're worried about what your friends and family would think. Maybe you're worried about them not going into a good sixth form. Maybe you're upset because you worked so hard to give them opportunity and options that you never had, and now they may not have it as well. But if we don't let those feelings out, your teen can feel it. And they may be able to feel it better than we give them credit for. So in this conversation, you may need to add something that you've already reflected on. Something like this. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you because our family, we value honesty. And if you don't pass these exams, you may notice that I feel a little bit disappointed. And I'm telling you this not because I'm putting pressure, but because I want you to know that disappointment is okay. And I'm not disappointed in you. I'm not disappointed in your outcome. I'm disappointed because at the end of the day, as a parent, I want to give you things that make your life easy and good and wonderful, and you deserve that. And so I can't help but feel a little bit disappointed that this journey is going to take a little bit more effort. But I also equally know that our family values resilience, curiosity, and working together. And I have no doubt that we'll be able to do that. I just wanted to keep you looped in.
That's the reassurance they're going to need. They're going to need to know that you're going to have your own feelings. It's okay, and it's not directed at them. That's what they need to see. But if you're sitting there thinking, I have all these options now, Sarah Lynn, and I feel frozen, which one do I do? It's okay. Let's go through a framework. Will this matter in 10 years? Will it matter in 20 years? And will it matter in 50 years? And yes, it may change how things happen, but will it matter? Will anyone care if they have good GCSE marks? Or will they matter that they're mentally healthy, that they have resilience, that they have a toolbox that they can pull from to support other difficult situations, that they have a good relationship with you, that they believe in themselves and they have a good relationship with themselves? That's what we're actually protecting when we make these decisions. Not the exams, the humans. The overarching question that you need to ask is, if I push my child through to do these GCSEs, what am I risking? What am I risking more of? Am I risking their potential opportunities by not pushing them? Or am I risking their well-being, potentially now and in the long run? Because that's essentially what this comes down to. If you push them through, they might surprise themselves and actually do okay. On the other hand, they might completely fall apart during the exams and fail anyway. They might pass but be so traumatized by the experience that it impacts other difficult scenarios that they are faced with in the future. They might develop long-term mental health conditions for years to come. If you pull back, if you defer, I can feel your thoughts weighing out the options, swirling around, shooting so quickly through your mind. And they're all valid. These are the thoughts that I've heard our families share with us. These are genuine concerns that you have, and I hear that. But remember, we are looking with curiosity, and you're not limiting down to two options, do or don't. You are looking at two different outcomes. We either do it and we do it this way, or we adapt and do it a different way. And the only question that matters is, which risk can you and your teen live with? Whatever you decide,
push through, scale back, defer, some kind of combination of these, you need to make peace with that decision. Because here's what's going to happen. Here's what's happened with many of the Maverick families we work with through very similar scenarios. You make a decision, everyone's on board, and late at night you get plagued with, I've made the wrong decision. What if we had to do it a different way? And you second guess. And then, just like any belief system that we have, we start looking for evidence. When they start to struggle, if they start to break down, if they start to internalize more, you start to reprimand yourself for not getting therapy sooner. There's so many ways that we start to collect data that reinforces our worries, our fears. But I want you to hear that this is so normal. It's so normal, as uncomfortable as that sounds. It's just the human way. And it doesn't mean that you actually did make the wrong decision. You, in fact, made a decision in an incredibly impossible position. And all of those decisions has pros and cons, but you took the time to go through a framework, to decide if it suits your family, to talk to your child, to bring in other experts. You did everything you could, and you need to feel calm and confident knowing that. At the end of the day, the only thing we can do is make a decision based on the information that we have and be willing to adapt if and when we get new information. But as of right now, you made a decision and we need to move forward with that confidently. And it's tricky to know how to navigate your feelings while still being the strong, stable container for your child so that they can feel their feelings. But we do it like this. With friends, we do it when talking to our own mental health support system. We do it so we can help our teen move to the next phase. If you're going through this, please do not do it alone. Talk to other parents who have gone through something similar. Share openly with your friends and family. They want to support you more than you think they're going to judge you. Enlist a therapist if you feel like that's right for you. There are so many parenting online groups. All you have to do is type in exam help parenting and I'm sure you'll find something. Because the truth of the matter is, like we've talked about in all of our videos, you matter. You matter. If we cannot take care of you, you cannot take care of them. Your mental health matters too. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So look, I know this has been a heavy episode. I actually have had 2 cups of tea already. I could only imagine how many you've been through. And I know it's not the uplifting, you've got this, XYZ, quick tips, fast change, do this and this will happen kind of parenting advice that we normally get. But as I said in the beginning, I believe we need to talk about the hard stuff. I don't think a lot of us do, but we need to. The hard stuff is the bits that don't have neat answers or a one-size-fits-all approach. And let's be honest, we're talking about parenting, so what does? So here's what I want to leave you with. You have options. Because you listened to this podcast today, because you stayed curious, we are no longer looking at A or B, but we now have 5+ options. And whatever you decide, make peace with it because you made that decision with all of the information. You checked your gut, you checked in with your child, you checked in with mental health professionals, you made a decision based on the facts. And that is the best we can do in difficult situations. And I want you to know something. I want you to know that your teen is going to be okay. Maybe not today, nor tomorrow, maybe not even in June. But one day, they'll be okay. And I know that because they have you. They're so lucky to have you. A parent willing to fight in their corner and look at other options. They will remember that. They will remember you making impossible decisions to protect them. And that is powerful.
If you feel like this podcast has helped give you a little less fear and a little more clarity on where you and your family could potentially go, please send this on to 3 of your parenting friends. The more families who have options, the less we can move from a system where we feel like there's only A or B, and instead we could see that there are actually numerous different ways, even if they are not always presented to us in the bold print, and instead we need to look in the fine print. If you want to leave any information down below about the journey that you're going on, I'd be more than happy to hear and to cheer you all on. Don't forget, if you're listening in the car or while you're doing chores or anywhere else and you want to be able to reflect on the things that we've said, check in our show notes and I have a printout for you there. And after you've hit that send button to your friends, check out this video right here. It is going to help you understand what kind of data you need to be collecting, what kind of evidence you need to be collecting in order to share your child's scenario with different providers. So go check out how to do evidence tracking here. I got a lot of dog hair in my mouth because of you. Ugh, gross. Hello. I'll be so upset. I see you back there. What are you doing?